Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto, Carnivore, Carnivish, or whatever program you're doing that's working for you. I just want to see you have a program that works day in and day out with that consistency. Nothing like consistency. At the end of the day, if you've had a day that's consistent with the day before and the day before that and the day after, all of that, then it's a good thing, right? Getting to the place of bliss. I know that food manufacturers use that bliss point with their chemicals to get you to buy something, but I'm talking about that point of bliss where it's like, yes, this works. And well, maybe I've had that hamburger patty and those 4 ounces of broccoli and that cauliflower crumble, with butter mixed in, 4 days in a row, but heck, it works. And so, see, the heat's on. You can see it making my things wave. I was wondering what that was. Casper's with me. Um, so yeah, sometimes eating the same thing and it's delicious and nutritious. And when you push yourself away from the table, you feel satiated. Well, it's working. And, to the average food consumer out there with the standard American diet, it can seem sad. It's like, that's all you have? And that works? And it's like, yeah, I like it. And it's like, but you're missing out on life. And it's like, oh, trust me. I got online many, 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 many times for those standard American diet items. And I certainly had my quota. Probably you did too. And so sometimes when we do get to that place where you've had that same meal for 4 or 5 days in a row, and you're thinking, God, I'm really weird. Okay, I'm eccentric. I love my beef every night. I did have spare ribs, cooked them. So I had 2 nights of beef and pork, because pork isn't as satiating to me as the beef is. But when I have some beef with it, it gets that way. So when, you have everything on your plate, or maybe you can't even finish, that's always a good thing too. And you push yourself away from the table. And if you're not satiated and content right then at that moment, you may be in a few minutes. Just give it a bit of time, clear your plates, wash your plates, maybe do what I do, that dental hygiene sort of thing. So I can tell myself, girlie, you're done for the day. You're done. That's all you have. And might as well deal with your teeth and then get back to your guilty pleasure TV. That's what I do. That's what I tell myself. And so it just works. I don't think about it, until it's time to do the food execution for the next OMAD the next day. And usually it's already, mostly planned in my head. I'm not tracking anymore. I know it's odd. I still weigh and measure everything that I put in my cuppa, my Keto unsweetened non-dairy creamer, my butter or my ghee or my coconut oil. Those little boosts go in my 3 cups of coffee, not all, one of those fats each time. And they carry me through my day of Ubering and lifting and chores and errands and answering videos and making videos and all that good stuff. And I'm finding it works for me. It's just smooth. I like smooth. I don't like herky-jerky, way too hungry, on the verge of hangry. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's hangry, and nobody wants to be hangry. What is hangry? Hangry is hungry and angry at the same time. I know. We've all met a little bit of hangry in our time. When our little lifestyles, simple as they may be, are jolted a bit, sometimes we may get hangry because things might not be going our way. Can you imagine not having your way every minute of the day? Well, a lot of us older folks find that, we do have the time that we might not have had when we had a full house of people and things, weren't always, for us. I mean, I care for Greg, I cook for Greg, I do all the stuff surrounding Greg's meal. It takes time and things like that. But I don't have those daily disruptions that perhaps a young parent might have. When you get the call from the school, your child is sick, needs to be picked up, or your doctor's appointment gets, you're waiting at you're going to a doctor's appointment, and that takes time. And then you're sitting there in that office because your time isn't important, right? And so you're sitting there for 45 minutes and wondering if, like, did you even remember me? That happened to me once. They forgot. They forgot me for 1 hour. And I was there. And at one point I did get up and I said, hello. But so if our day is a nice, typical, steady, consistent day, those things are nice. And enjoy them, because you've probably had some days, you'll probably have some days in your future where things just don't go as planned, right? It happens. I like to keep things nice and simple and enjoy each minute. It's called Serenity. Some people might call it boring, but I call it Serenity. And there's nothing like a serendipitous, I just had to say that word, day. I like that when things go okay. I try to be proactive with a lot of things, with like grocery shopping, keeping the house clean, keeping the car Uber ready, which means the floors are clean, the car is clean, the gas tank is on full. I just like I'm still with that sash, being the Girl Scout with all the little badges on it of little areas that I've passed. I don't even remember what the criteria was. I don't think it was rubbing sticks together to make a fire, but you get what I'm saying. And so I like to be proactive instead of catching my tail the whole day. It just suits me better. I used to be somebody that worried a lot. I was a squirrel with a nut, just rolling it and rolling it and rolling it and trying to figure things out, like how to get into that darn nut. And, some things just can be set aside. Maybe you don't have to figure it out. Maybe it is what it is, And sometimes, I'm a huge believer that working in an office was probably the hardest thing that I did. And I did it for most of my life. And I'm sure a lot of people can identify with being in an office, and it's not necessarily the people that we would choose to spend most of our waking hours with, right? And there we are. And there's just, parts about other people that make us crazy. Or maybe it's because I'm used to my solitude and I'm an only child. So I'm kind of used to, things not necessarily my way, but simpler, And I don't know about you guys, but I remember working in offices and having people do things like heating fish up in the microwave with no cover on it. It's not wrapped, and then it explodes. And then they take their fish, what's left of it, leaving half of it on the walls and the top and the glass thing, and leaving, Or another pet peeve was people that didn't empty out their coffee contents in the sink before throwing away the cup. So, or they'd have a cold, like donkey and all that ice, and they'd put it in the trash, and then it would spill into the trash, and then there'd be a hole in the bag. That stuff would make me nuts. And it doesn't happen to me here at home. First of all, I'm not going to Dunkin' and getting, an iced coffee and then throwing it away, but things like that. And so I know I ate at people that I worked with all the time. 8 hours of like, oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. Oh, or they're on their phone, their cell phone, or they're out having a cigarette every 5 minutes. And I'm like doing, I'm doing, what was her name? Ernestine? The operator from Laugh In. I'm trying to remember it all. Somebody will remember down below, I'm sure. And so And so I'm sure at that moment in time, I would plan what dessert I was having that night. My mechanisms for coping were always about food. My rewards for life, achievements, something good happening was always food. Getting together with gal pals or going on a date, it was always about food. And so how do you undo always about food? Is your social life different now because it's not always about food anymore? You know, I I have friends that do that would, have plans, will travel. They bring their beef patty with them. They're very social still. And so at first it had looks, it had comments, but now they don't even bat an eye with her, and sometimes they even provide that beef patty when she goes someplace. I think that's rather cool. So, my social life is pretty slim these days. I get my humaneness from going to AA meetings and driving Uber and Lyft, and then being with Greg, and then answering your comments here. It's 40 years ago, I wouldn't have pictured it being this way. I always thought it was a gang of people meeting, at places for drinks and appetizers and meals and desserts and, the whole Megillah, the 4,000 calorie going out from drinks to apps to entrees to desserts, and maybe even a little doggy bag that would go home. But it certainly is different now. My food is my fuel. And honestly, as I sit down to like a steak for my dinner with the drippings on top of it that because I finish it in my cast iron pan. Greg begins it with the big green egg and the wood chips and smoking it. And then I finish it so it retains the medium rareness, because I like mine rare, usually rare. And then, and so reheating it, finishing it, I should say, in the cast iron gives me the doneness that I like, the medium rareness that I like. And so it's turned out different. It ends up, it's like I'm sitting down, I'm tanking up. It's like when I go to the gas station and I fill the tank with gas. That's what I feel like I'm doing for myself. Do I enjoy it? Every bite. It doesn't, being the mostly carnivore person that I am doesn't mean I don't enjoy. It just means it's got purpose. Each bite is nutritionally dense and has purpose. And I like that. It works for me. Each one of these has a little bit of fat in it for fuel, and that just keeps me going through the day. This isn't based on anything scientific, but I feel as a woman that having an ample amount of fats is good for me. It fuels my brain, my older brain. Older brains like fat. They do. I'm so happy they do. And so, we can just have a nice fatty meat for our dinner. Maybe if you're keto, you're still having some veg with it. Have your veg. If you aren't sensitive to veggies, enjoy them. I would, but I'm sensitive to them. And I just saw that they were the anti-nutrients that Georgia Ede calls them. And they stopped working for me. And then Sally Norton finished me off with the oxalates. Thanks. I love the information. So 2 people that I've been listening to this week that have just been fun is a woman named Jill Stampner. I will put one of her links down below, and then you can find the rest. She's carnivore now. She's interesting. I think she's 52, almost 52. I think in a couple of weeks she will be. Maybe she's already 52. And then the other one is Dr. Unwin and his wife, Jen. The 2 of them are such charming British, Aussie delights. And the sense of humor is so great. And if there's one thing you want to know about Dr. Unwin, he does not like bananas. And he is hysterical about bananas. Hysterical. Bananas. He says it with that accent. And so I get a lot of juju from both of them these days. It's kind of fun. I like people that stick to a consistent way of eating. And as most of you know that, I'm not a keto fire. I like things unsweetened now. And I always had sweetened coffee for years and years and years. And a couple of months ago, I gave up my Xyla and my erythritol. Who knew? Wasn't planning on it, just decided to do it. And no regrets, no turning back. Now it's the fat, it's the savor. It always was, but the coffee had a little sweet in it, and now I like going without. So it's an interesting journey. So anyway, it's Jill Stampner, and I will put a link below, and Dr. Unwin. I'm sure some of you have seen him in some of the podcasts that he's been in recently. Just a dear, dear man. I'd love to have him for a PC. Anyway, that's it from me from here, and I will see you the next time. I'm so glad you're here. Be it keto, carnivore, carnivish, not even sure, who even cares? Why do I have to have a label? I eat what works for me. Good. Put that on the top. And don't forget to underline it. I'll see you the next time. This has been Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food, with Keto, Carnivore, Carnivish Ways of Eating. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye for now.